Up, I'm setting up. A very good day, Dr. Linda. How are you? How are you doing? I thought the network was gonna be trouble. Can you hear me properly?
I can hear you loud and clear, and I think I need to give you a point of correction. I am not a
Okay.
doctor. I don't aspire to be a doctor. I'm comfortable with my mambo card status, and I've got no reason
Okay.
whatsoever to try to be a doctor. So
A
yes,
doctor? Okay.
call me Mambo Card Kwama Sarira or Linda, and I'm fine with it. And thank you very much for inviting me over.
Okay. Let me correct on that doctor thing. I saw somebody was asking, like, is she a doctor? No, 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 not the doctor of medicine. Doctor of strength. I always try. It's either you are an honorable, you are a comrade, you are. But I always try to put that strong title. This is on me. It has nothing to do with the doctorate because I always feel that people have a tendency of making us choose like how we call other people or how we the titles that we can put on other women. So if I want to call somebody queen, well, that's up to me. That's me for you.
All
But
right, I
anyway,
hear
thank you,
you.
Mambo
So
Cat.
maybe from today, I'll start calling myself the doctor of strength, like you said it, eh?
Yes, yes, we make those decisions and we say, she is a doctor, she's a queen. This is up to us. This is on to us. Because if we don't give each other those uplifting titles, I guess that we'll just forever feeling inferior and looking down on each other. I think we don't need to really go to school and have that doctorate on paper to show that I can be called a doctor. So that's how I see things. I was very much away from a bio, but I went with it anyway. But anyway, thank you so
No,
much
I
for
get you. I get you.
yeah, thank you so much for tuning in for joining us in studio today as we celebrate as well the International Day of the Girl Child. What does that it means to you as Linda Masari, as Mampoka's Linda Masarira? 25 years after Beijing, today is International Day of the Girl Child. How does that feel to you? What does it even have a meaning?
It really does have a meaning because the mere fact that we are still celebrating the day of a girl child means that the girl child is still being viewed as a second class citizen of the world. Yet the girl
Wow,
child is the one that has got the potential and the power to turn around things in the world.
that's
If we
right.
had if we had overcome the patriarchal tendencies, the misogynistic natures, the cultural barriers, the religious barriers, I don't think that centuries after emancipation and decades after women emancipation and 25 years after the Beijing conference, we would still be saying we have a day for the girl child. We still
That's
have this
right.
day because the girl child is still disenfranchised, is still marginalized, is still facing a lot of abuse and a whole lot of things that we cannot even speak about. So at the end of
That's
the
right.
day, I've asked this question before to civic society organizations that why
Mm-hmm.
is it that we only know about women's organizations starting from the day of the girl child and on the
Mm-hmm.
16 days of activism? Does it
That's
mean
right.
that from 1 January to 10 or 11 October, there are no human rights violations towards women? There is no women or gender-based violence, and that our girl children going through what they're supposed to be going through. And those are pertinent questions that most women organizations don't want to answer because for
That's true.
them, they're at work. They are more concerned about the donor funds. They're not concerned about the real cause. That is why, after 25 years, we are still saying we have got a day for the girl child. Is there
Mm-hmm.
sincerity from women's organizations? From my own perspective, no. Is there
That's
any
right.
sincerity from governments all over the world to deal with the challenges that the girl child goes through? My response again will be no. So what is it that we are doing as women leaders to ensure that the girl child is protected? That is the major reason why I decided to move over from activism to forming a political party that will give
That's
women
right.
an opportunity to lead and to be able to go and change policy in regards to women emancipation and protection of the girl child. And that is really important. I think I am tired. I am sick and tired of people using girl child issues to look for donor funding and to uplift their own
Exactly.
livelihoods. Yet the problems that the girl child goes through never change.
That's right. That's right. I love that point because we have looked at so many organizations that go and lobby to the UN, to wherever, and say they need funding to look after the women's rights and the girl child. But a woman next door, somewhere in Zaka, gets beaten up every day. Nobody's looking out for them. Nobody is lobbying to the government to say we have these kind of issues. I once mentioned the issue of we look at child marriages. In Zimbabwe itself, child marriages is still happening in the name of Joan Marang and these Mapostori things. Girls are getting married at the age of 13. Nobody is
Mhm.
there to say we are going to stand up for those girls. But they lobby for grown-up women who just feel that I was scratched. So sometimes there is no balance, there is no genuine cause. So I love what you are doing with the political party, the lead that you just mentioned. But before we go to that, who is Linda Masarira? Are you Mshurugwi or I wanna know that part. Who is she?
Oh, anyway, since you want to know, I'll explain to you. Linda Pasarira is a Rosary Queen. That is what I am.
Okay.
I'm very
Okay.
spiritual when it comes to my Africanness. I believe in who I am. Unfortunately, after years of subscribing to a borrowed religion, I realized that it was one of the major reasons why we are divided as a people, not only in Zimbabwe, but in Africa as a whole. And then about 10 years ago, I decided to start on a journey of finding myself, reconnecting with my Africanness, and trying to get to know where we're getting lost as a people. That's when I realized things that I didn't even know, that I'm a descendant of Mtinima, that I'm actually a royal queen, and a whole lot of
Wow.
other things. But at the end of the day, it all goes back to how are we brought up? Are we brought up to understand who we are? And I think that is one of the major problems that we're facing in Africa, that we think that everything foreign is good for us. And we've
That's right.
totally disconnected from who we are, and we want to live with these borrowed principles. I would tell you that if I was supposed to restart my life, I wouldn't even want to be speaking the language I'm speaking right now. I would have wanted to speak with Shana Shana Tete Shia Shanga Shiri Pano. I would have felt proud about it. But up to
Yeah.
today, I come from Mashingo. I cannot, if you meet me, my Shona is the Zulu type of Shona. I'm supposed to be speaking my Chikaranga, but I cannot speak
Hey.
it because my parents thought that I should get the Western education, speak the best English. And I'm not even proud of being very eloquent and fluent in English, yet I'm not eloquent and fluent in my own mother tongue, which is Chikaranga. And that
That's
is what
true.
I'm
That's
trying
right.
to impart to the younger generation. Who are we as a people? Where is the disconnect? How do we decolonize mindsets to say we need to change the way we do things? That is why we continue being disrespected. That is why the West and the East view us as a dumping site, because we disconnected from who we are as a people.
That's right.
Growing up, I grew up in when I was in high school. My father moved to Bindura, where he was working at Ashanti Goldfield. When I was there, I realized that white people actually do the festivals, our African traditional festivals, for rain,
Yeah.
for first fruits, etc., etc. But us, the native Zimbabweans, we no longer do that. We say it's demonic, it's satanic, because we're
Yeah.
subscribing to a religion that is not ours. So there are things that we need to introspect as Africans. That who are
That's
we?
right.
Why are we reeling in so much quagmire? And I am not apologetic about my spirituality. And I still maintain, because I realize that I'm a royal queen. I prefer being called that. I know a lot of people will come with their own assertions about who I am and who I'm not. But I've also learned over the years that women were respected in the African society.
That's right.
There
That's
is
right.
no man who would go to war without consulting the women in the clan. There
Exactly.
is
That's
no
right.
man who would do anything without consulting the wife. In our Shona adage, there's a statement in Chikaranga rather, which says
Yeah.
Mushamukadzi,
Mushamkas.
Nika
That's true.
Mukadzi. And when you look at the continents, our countries, even in the Western language, they are referred to with the feminine name, he.
Hey,
It shows
she.
the power that a woman has. But I don't know at what point we lost that power as women. And we are saying if we have to correct the ills in the world, we have to go down back to basics. Respect
Thank you.
women.
That's right. That's right. Because I love what you said. Respected women back in the day. I had a conversation earlier this week with somebody where I said we had the likes of Buyane Handa, who died at 36. She was very well respected. I think those are the years that I found in the research. I'm not sure if that's correct, but I'm just to put it at 36. We have the likes of Queen Zinga and so forth. They were very young, respected, made an impact. And all of a sudden, there is this fight for equality. There was no such thing as conferences for women during Neander's time, but they still were respected in our society, in our African society. So I still believe that, as you mentioned, the Western spirituality, I think it also came with a lot of inequality to women. It also came with oppression of women. Because when you go, let's just go straight, if we can go to the Bible now, the whole thing, that is what we are trying to fight with this with these conferences. Women were never seen as that important. But when we look at our own African tradition, our own cultures, women were respected. We had female warriors. So what happened? Where is the disconnection? When did it start? And how do we go back to the basics?
The only way we can go back to the basics is when we realize that there is no one who is a child of a lesser God.
That's true.
When we talk in the African essence, we are all children of Umusikara, the supreme God. And everyone has got a role to play. We are supposed to nurture life, we direct life, we carry life in our wombs, we bring them
That's
to
right.
life, we nurture them, we teach them to walk, we teach them everything that they're supposed to do, regardless of whether they're male or female. And that's the reality.
That's true.
But I don't know still where the disconnect comes when people are in their teenage age, where the male species starts saying, I'm a male, I'm a man. You have to look at me with a different lens. You're a
Species.
woman. You can't lead. You can't do this. I can't be led by a man. But we all came into the world the same way.
That's
So I
true.
think it is time that people need to introspect and be realistic about a lot of things. We all have our gender roles, fair and fine. But this thing of abusing women just because of their gender should stop, and should stop
That's true.
immediately. That's why I'm always saying that Africa needs to redefine how they run things, starting from the governance system. And when I talk about the governance system, I'm saying most of the African countries that were colonized just inherited the colonial systems that were in place. There were no
That's
efforts
right.
whatsoever that were made to ensure that those systems were reformed and that they were changed to suit the African narrative. I'll give you an example. In 1980, when Zimbabwe attained independence, the new government just came in and adopted the Smith regime system. That is why today we are still complaining that we are being abused. The state is oppressive, the state is repressive, the state is suppressive. It is because we never changed the system. We are still using a colonial system 40 years after independence. We have had the major opposition MDC in power since 1940. I mean, since 2000.
Yes,
Sorry
yes.
about that. They've
It's
never
okay.
tried to change the same system that we're talking about. They also want to get into power and manipulate the same system. But what we're saying is we need a new generation that is working towards transforming the system to make it pro-poor, pro-people, so that we can ensure sustainable human development, so that we can grow our economy. But as long as we are still using this system that was segregatory and discriminatory, we are doing a great injustice to ourselves and future
That's
generations to
right.
come. Because the reality is, we have had a bulge in the population in Zimbabwe since 1980.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got a lot of people who are unemployed or in the informal sector. Is our government ever taking time to change even the council bylaws? No. We are still using bylaws from the Smith regime. That is why you find vendors still being beaten up and arrested. But
That's
Zimbabwe
right.
has been sustained by informal trade since 2008. Both the main opposition MDC and ZANU PF have made no effort whatsoever to change these bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
What we see is a contestation of power. We have never really seen a contestation of ideas. And that is where labor economists and African Democrats comes in. We say, let's move over from politics of personalities, politics of patronage, politics of populism, and move to politics of ideas, where we are saying, what is it that we're supposed to do to ensure sustained livelihoods for all Zimbabweans? How do we
That's
ensure
right.
that we incorporate the informal sector to also be able to grow our GDP? Because that is critically important. We can't run away from that. And as long as we are not producing, we are going to live with the informal sector, and we have to find a way of formalizing the informal sector. But these are
Mm-hmm.
conversations that people don't want to have, because everyone is
That's right.
fixated with parties and politics, as if anyone eats a political party name. And that has to change.
That's true.
And when we're speaking
Mm-hmm.
about changing all that, it all goes back to the issue that I was raising, that we need to start having a dialogue on changing the system.
The system. That's right. That's right. So, as lead, you have mentioned a lead. As lead, what are you doing where women are concerned in decision making positions, and to make sure that those strategies that you just mentioned or and objectives are met? How are you doing that, especially where the women and girl child are concerned? Because I've seen in other political parties and even in activism, we put a woman in front because it's convenient, because that's the requirement. If they had another choice, I don't think they would not. But since your party is led by a woman, so I want to understand from that perspective.
Labor Economists and African Democrats was founded by a woman,
Mm-hmm.
cognizant of the fact that all the other
Amandla.
political parties that we have in Zimbabwe and Africa do not respect women, and women are only viewed as tokens in politics. And what we're
Okay.
trying to do is to ensure that we align with the Constitution of Zimbabwe, because our Constitution is clear in Section 16,
Mm-hmm.
Section 56. It speaks about gender equality, non-discrimination, and
Mm-hmm.
even if you look at our structures, they're gender balanced. And we are creating
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity for women to lead, where they're not discriminated, where they're not told that you have to sleep with me before we give you a lead from the front. And we have
Yeah.
100% organic solutions to the crisis that we have in Zimbabwe. And we are saying Zimbabweans know what is best for Zimbabwe. We don't have to
That's
export
right.
our problems to America, to Britain, or China or Russia. But what we need is to be able to tap into our organic intellectual capacity to fix the problems that are bedeviling Zimbabwe. So what we're doing is we've given opportunity to young people, to women to lead from their communities. Because for me, I don't view development coming from the presidium. development starts at community level, development starts at the wards. But because of too much politicking and propaganda, Zimbabweans seem to think that development starts at the presidium. No, that is why we've got very weak councils, because everyone is so
That's true.
fixated on who's the president. The president does not develop local councils. No, that is the duty of the councillor. So I'm encouraging a lot of women to come and join LEAD, be our shadow councillors, and run for council in 2023. And if we have so many women running the councils, I don't think that we are going to be having water problems, because water problems have got a heavier burden on women than on men, because it's the women who spend most of the time on the queues trying to look for water, because they use water in their day-to-day course. So at the end of the day, if women are not yet ready to step up and take leadership, they'll continue crying foul. And women have to start standing up, defending their territory. We constitute 62% of the population in Zimbabwe, 50%
That's
of
right.
the population in the world. And where are the women when it comes to leadership?
Eish. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Women are always at the back door, and we are only involved when it is convenient for men. I always call them the village headmen. When you hear him say, "I'm an African man," just know Mawanaya tongue. But I love what you what you are doing with LEAD. It is highly appreciated. It's 25 years after Beijing, and we have our women change makers. We have our women making things happen, regardless of the tough situations that we face each and every day. So, what advice can you give to women who want to walk in your footsteps?
The
If
advice
somebody
that I'll
had
give
to
to
just
women,
work, yes, you
yeah,
can
the
proceed.
advice that I'll give is you have to step out of your comfort zone. You are not
Mm-hmm.
made to be a doormat or to be a
That's right.
walkover, but
Mm-hmm.
we are all wonderfully and fearfully made. And that,
Mm-hmm.
dear woman, you're actually the change that you've been waiting for. And if you're not at the dining table, but you are in the
Mm-hmm.
dining room, you are definitely
Mm-hmm.
on the menu. So women need
Wow.
to move over from being in the dining room and sitting on the table and stop being the menu. But as long as they're not on the dining table, they'll continue to be the menu and will continue being used to mobilize support for the male people who do not have our interests at heart. At the end of the
Wow.
day, women are very strong. Women can juggle a lot of things. If a woman can be a wife, a mother, a worker, a hustler, we can do so much more in government or in council, because we just naturally can multitask. So it is
Mm-hmm.
time for women to step out of their comfort zones and say, enough is enough. We need to take charge of leadership. We need to own our space, because there is no free lunch in politics.
That's
And there's
right.
no one who's going to come with a silver platter and say, Linda, it's now your time to lead. There's nothing like that. You have to be brave,
Yeah,
you have to be strong, and you have to stand up and say, I'm going to do this. I've been motivated by my life's experiences. And I've said, I
that's
don't
right.
want my daughter or any other woman to go through what I've gone through. And I've stood firm for what I believe in. I'm very much against gender injustice, labor injustice, and social injustice. And I am not
Mm-hmm.
one person who will go to on social media and start lamenting that things are bad. I told myself that I'm a change agent, and I'll continue being that change agent and make sure that the change that I want to see will be driven by me and like-minded women.
Wow, that's so amazing. That's so amazing. But in your career and life, was there any time that you felt like you are being discriminated because you're a woman, or because Murimukaranga, or because you are black?
Discrimination is the order of the day for a woman leader. I faced
Yeah.
discrimination even before I was a leader when I was growing up. When you want to
Mm-hmm.
play football, you're told football is a men's game or is the boys' game. I faced
Mm-hmm.
discrimination at the workplace. I was the first, one of the very few, computer technicians, female computer technicians in Zimbabwe. It was quite a
Wow.
challenge. I was in the trainmen's, I was one of the very first few trained women in Zimbabwe, and it was also a challenge, and there was a lot of discrimination. I faced discrimination in politics. Was the first woman spokesperson of a political party in Zimbabwe, and I think you saw what was happening to me. So you see, the discrimination, you face it on a daily basis. On a daily basis, go on social media right now. There's just this misconception that a woman should be married and their role belongs in the kitchen, and it's still very real. The patriarchy, the misogyny is very real. But at the end of the day, when you've got a cause and you've got a vision, you will stand firm and say, I'm going to accomplish this no matter what people are going to do. It's said that
Mm-hmm.
most women decide to be doormats, decide to be submissive to men who are not their husbands. And at the end of the day, they kill their careers, they kill their potential because they're submitting to the wrong people. I
That's
believe
right.
that yes, a woman should be submissive to their husband because they're in matrimony. But when it comes to leadership, I don't believe that I have to submit to any other man. Why should I do that? For what? Because I'm trying to change a status quo that is affecting women nationally, internationally. Women are still being viewed as second class citizens, and that has to change. But who has the power to
Mm-hmm.
change all that? It is us, the women. Are we ready to change that status quo? Or we want to continue being patriarchal gatekeepers? We want to be given kickbacks by the men in politics so that we support the men at the expense of the women who are trying to turn around things. It is unfortunate, like
Yeah.
I highlighted when we started this program, that the donor funding has actually stifled progress of women activism and feminism because we're not going anywhere. Because the ones who claim to be gender activists or feminists are more interested in the US dollars that are getting into their pockets than ensuring that women are actually emancipated and empowered to be financially independent, to be able to own their own voice, and to create a space for them in the leadership and the political economy in our countries.
Okay, so do you think the Beijing resolution was well implemented in Africa? I mean, Zimbabwe in particular. I know we all these 189 countries and the 17,000 attendees and so forth. When you look at Zim, do you think all of that was the resolution was well implemented, or we still have a long way to go? I know you have highlighted some of the challenges, but is there any room for us to get there?
The room is there if there is the political will. I've said this in a number of forums that I don't know why women in Zimbabwe are still crying for affirmative action, why they're still crying for 60 proportional representation seats. Yet our constitution is clear on the issue to do with gender equality. And Section 3 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe is also clear that any custom, any tradition, any practice that is out of bias, the Constitution of Zimbabwe is invalid. So it
Mm-hmm.
shows that women in Zimbabwe are not empowered enough, do not have sufficient civic education to understand that they are actually powerful proponents for change. But they
That's right.
continue to be used by politicians to push political narratives that do not benefit any woman in the process. So that change that we want to actually come from us. I'm one person who's against the extension of the 60% proportional representation seats. I'm against affirmative action. I believe that women should stand up and fight for their space and say, this is what we are going to do as women. When we look at other countries like Rwanda, we see that the gender balance that they're trying to do is actually cosmetic because those women that they actually allude to, that they've given women power, are actually ceremonial leaders.
That's
Where are
right.
the we want to see women with power, women like me, women with clarity who will tell you that even if you insult me, even if you try to pull me down, even if you call me
Mm-hmm.
names, I will not change
Mm-hmm.
from my viewpoint. That is what we
That's right.
want. We want women who can stand for issues, who can debate issues, who can go on any
Mm-hmm.
forum in the world and debate with clarity issues affecting their countries, issues affecting
Mm-hmm.
progress, issues affecting development. That is what we want. We don't want
That's
leaders that
true.
are selected or handpicked by men in political parties that they have to go for proportional representation.
Mm-hmm.
My heart bleeds every time when I watch the fifth parliament of Zimbabwe, which I always call the worst parliament in the history of Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rare to find a woman moving a motion because they're being remote controlled by their party.
Yeah.
Some of them had to be funded by the male proponents in their political parties. They don't have a voice. So going forward, we're saying women arise with clarity and define where you want to go. It is time that we move a women's revolution agenda, not only for Zimbabwe, but for Africa.
That's
Women have
true.
to take their space. Women have to stop being motivated by donor funding. Women have to say we have suffered enough under the leadership of men. It is our time to correct the ills that men have done in our continent, Africa, in my country, Zimbabwe. It is time where we have to say enough is enough. I've always told a lot of young girls that
Mm-hmm.
why do you want to look for a boyfriend with a cell phone or with a car? Why are you not motivated to come out of varsity, buy your own iPhone, buy your own car, and be proud? I had
That's
my
true.
first car when I was 19 because I had a vision.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
never wanted to look for a man who's driving a car. And at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, if we don't give girls and young women this knowledge that what a boy can do, you can do twice as much. We are not doing any justice to ourselves. And the problem
That's
still
true.
goes back to upbringing. How are we upbringing our daughters? You have to keep yourself well so that you get married to a rich guy. I upbring my
Mm-hmm.
daughters telling them that study hard, play hard, and make money, buy your own things, and be your own boss.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Which
is what
I
we're
think,
supposed to be telling the girl child. We're not
yep.
supposed to tell the girl child that you're not getting married to this guy because he doesn't have money. I'd rather have the girl child being the one who's choosing the type of man she wants to marry him because she has accomplished so much in her life. And that is the education we are now supposed to give our girl children. Not to tell our girl children that you're going to get married as if getting married is an accomplishment. It's not. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And as long as we're not changing that, women will continue to be suppressed. The other thing that I wanted to add before I finish is why we
No.
have
Yeah.
so many few women leaders in Africa. I know a lot of people will complain about this, but it's about marriage. The husband will
That's
tell you
right.
that I can't have a wife who's a politician.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
There are a lot of women who've got the zeal, who've got potential, who can turn around things, who've got the fire, but they are forced to choose between marriage and politics. So at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, if we don't have emancipated women, women with their own money, women who can make independent decisions, we will
Mm-hmm.
continue celebrating the day of the International Day of the Girl Child. We will continue commemorating Women's Day and a whole lot of things that we're not even supposed to be commemorating. And lastly,
Mm-hmm.
political parties in Africa need to do away with these women's leagues, women's councils, women's whatever. If we want to have those women's wings in political parties, we should also start
Mm-hmm.
having men's wings, because
Mm-hmm.
those women's organs in political parties actually marginalize women from practicing politics at the highest level. Because when you want to go there, you're told you've got your own wing or your own politburo or your own council. That has to stop.
Yep.
We are not children of a lesser God.
Thank you so much for that. I always go back to mothers, to women, to elder sisters, and so forth, to our society and community to say, You are the one who can define what the girl child can be in future. It begins with us as parents, as the community. We have girls who were raised in situations where you are told, gara zvakanaka, kana ukagara wakatiyama haurorwi, ukasapota pakati pamakumbo haurorwi. You need to look for you need to look better. You need to look good, get your education, so that you get married, to this. It's never about me achieving my goals. It's never about me following my passion. It's never about me living my purpose. It's always the end goal is to do it so that when you get married. So I love what you have just highlighted, of which I do have a question regarding that. It's not every girl child, it's not every woman who have access to technology. Those who are in Zaka, those who are in Gutu, who is motivating them to tell them that you can live your purpose? Where are the grassroots projects and programs where we go in? This is Linda, this is Matarinda Shumba, going in there kumachonyonyo and talking to these girls. Who is inspiring them?
Actually, I'm a trustee of Zimbabwe Women in Politics Alliance, which is an organization that I formed way back in 2016, and they had to leave because I had decided to go into mainstream politics. We've got programs to encourage young people to step out and to be the leader, even in their communities. And we are still trying to enroll programs so that we'll be able to reach out to every community, whether it's in the rural areas, peri-urban, and the farming areas. It's just unfortunate that the COVID-19 pandemic actually had to stop some of the programs that we had in place. But my passion is to see women from the front, whether it's in the rural areas, it's in the farming areas. I want to see women doing wonders. I want to see them excelling in what they do. It pains me a lot when I see a lot of women going through a lot of abuse, even in marriages, just because they're told to be strong.
That's right.
That is what marriage is about. For me, it's so wrong. I think you remember last year I hit the headlines after my ex-husband had assaulted me and I got him arrested, and people were saying I'm not a proper wife. But I cannot be in an abusive marriage because I want to be called Mrs. That I will not do.
That's right.
I am my own person. I was born by my mother and I need to maintain my dignity. For those who've been in abusive relationships, they know and understand this, that when a man assaults you, they take away this part of your dignity, and you always feel like you have to submit to their demands or their insaneness or whatever problem that they have. But I'm not that person. And I've been trying to tell women that there's no reason for you to stay in an abusive marriage. And saying I'm going to stay for the children, one day you'll end up the late. And why are you dying for a man?
That's
women,
right.
when
That's right.
for most women who are married, they know that the time when you go and get married, the taters will come and sit down with you and say, don't deny a man anything, do everything that they want. So when we created to be objects of men, these are critical things that we have to talk about, because a lot of women are living in pain, are living in sorrow. Men cheat on them, and all of them say that is what men do. We were created
and we just need
the same way.
Yeah.
Yes, we were created the same way. We all have feelings. And I've asked a lot of men who cheat on their wives that what will you do if your wife cheats on you? And they'll say, I'll kill that man. I'll kill that. Yes, but you are comfortable cheating on your wife. And they say, but the women that I cheat with are comfortable with cheating. That's not an excuse.
And that's not an excuse. That's not.
And until us women learn to respect ourselves and say we will not stand for this nonsense and this rubbish, that is the only time when men will also start respecting us. We also have feelings. We are also humans. That is why we've got a higher percentage of women suffering from hypertension, because we don't want to discuss these pertinent issues.
And the issue is when they do all of those things, we find ourselves being told, be your sister's keeper. They create a problem and want us to solve it. They create a problem and they want us to find solutions to it. They want us to take the blame for it, to take the fall for it, which is not fair. And until women have come to that stage in understanding to say we artists kuitisiwa, toramba kuitisiwa. Who can be on front, be in front because you just want to be harmonized? We should refuse. We should stand our ground. And until that happens, I believe that we will always fall victim of this society. And in closing, looking at your career, your activism, and your life, what can you say was the defining moment? This is what Mampokazi Linda Masarira's defining moment. Which one is that? What can you look back, or even something that is happening currently that you can say, okay, this I felt that I was on my best and I was able to lead and I was able to do things that when we look at history, I will be remembered.
My defining moment was challenging Mugabe. I was tired.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was tired of going to work without a salary. I was tired of being told that I have to work. I was tired of being oppressed. I was just tired of everything. And when I got arrested, the time that I actually led the first protest in a female prison in Zimbabwe, Chikurubi, I was taken to the maximum male prison where I was alone and I was staying above the hug. And it was so creepy and eerie. And I know they sent me there because they wanted to kill my spirit, but they made me stronger. That was my defining moment when I said, activism doesn't work. If I'm not on the table, I'm definitely the menu. And I decided that I will no longer be the menu. I will start playing an active role in defining the Zimbabwe that we want. Because as an activist, you can only make noise. You can only advocate. You cannot change policy. But as a politician, you become a stakeholder and your voice actually matters and your ideas are actually incorporated. That is the reason why I looked for other former trade unionists and said, don't you think that it's time we formed a party that stands for labor justice, a party that is concerned about economic growth, a party that would turn around the situation in Zimbabwe and transform livelihoods, a party that is not only concerned about Zimbabwe, but as Africa as a continent, because we don't live in a vacuum. And that is why LEAD is called Labour, Economists, and African Democrats. We are saying the type of democracy we want to have has to be fused with our traditional values and modern day politics to get to a stage where we actually have a governance system that resonates with our own struggles in Africa. We are in limbo because we are always copying what is happening in the West and the East. But we need to redefine our politics in Africa to be people-centric, to be pro-poor, and to be able to transform our continent to be a first world continent, to transform our countries to become economic powerhouses. As long as we are not focusing on that, we'll continue swimming in the same dark, murky waters and crying foul. We don't even need aid from the West or the East, but we just need to change the way that we do things. We need to change our systems, and we need to focus on development. We need to focus on devolution of power. We need to focus on depolarizing our political economy and decolonizing mindsets.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mampokazi Linda Masarira. To those who are tuned in, this is Mampokazi Linda Masarira. 25 years after Beijing, women change makers. And as you have heard from her, that's why I actually chose her for this. I went through a bio and I saw how she challenged Mugabe, and I was like, ooh, yeah. This is the kind of women that we want. People who are brave, people who are courageous. And I have a shout out from the founder of the Radio 54 African Panorama, who is our General Eric Knight. You say, please, she's a very brave woman. Greet her for me. Just say, how are you, Mambokazi, from General Eric Knight, the Night Rider. We all remember him.
And a special shout out to him as well. And thank you for creating this platform.
Okay, because we want to try and get our own African media that we can articulate the challenges that we are facing and our own solutions to African problems. And, you know, the Western media, as much as they are that big and wanted, they don't really give us this kind of platforms. So thank you so much for joining us. Any last words?
My last words are, you are the change that you've been waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
Stop asking for donor funds, and let's use our resources to make Africa great again.
Thank you so much, Mambokazi. I still want to call you doctor. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Mambokazi Linda Masarira. This doctor thing
I got
is in
that.
my...
I'm the doctor of strength, like you said, and from today I'll start calling myself doctor. And when people start asking me, doctor, are you that? I'll say, no, I'm the doctor of strength.
The doctor of strength, of courage, of everything. That we don't need that certificate to call each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mama.
Yes. All right. Thank you. So if people want to get hold of you or to be part of Lead, I'd forgotten. So sorry. How do they get in contact with you? I know I'll be sharing your numbers and your email address.
No, they can contact me. My number is very free on 0719 118 783.
Okay.
More than welcome to communicate with anyone. I'm not an egocentric leader. I believe in unity in our diversity. I believe kudichara chimwa chitswanya inda. And even if I was ever to take over power, I'm not the type of person who would move with motorcades and security. I'm just not that person. I'm a people person. Ndiri munhu wavanhu, ndiri mutungamiriri, handisi mutongi.
Yeah, plus with the courage challenging Mugabe and so forth, I know you don't need a motorcade. You just beat people up.
I'm clear about that. If you come to me, I'll beat you up. I'm clear about that.
Yes, yeah. I know. Makaranga, Atina, Indirim Karanga, born in Mashingo, grew up in Berengwa. Originally we from Berengwa, so nyaya dzokutorova tinotodhindana chaiko svikato. That's my own bodyguards. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a great day. Have a lovely week, and all the best with Lead. And keep up the great work. You are the kind of women that we need in our societies. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. Okay, that was Dr. Mambokazi Linda Masarira. I know that she said she's okay. We ended up agreeing that she is a doctor, Mambokazi Linda Masarira. We don't need that certificate anyway to be called a doctor of something. So, guys, that was Dr. Mambokazi Linda Masarira of Lead. We have touched on so many things, saying women, you know, back in the day, we were all respected. There was equality. They used to consult with us before they go all out. So where did it go all wrong? Where did it go wrong? That is a question that you need to ask ourselves as we create the Africa we want, as we reshape the Africa we want, as we move on. We need to go back to the basics. We need to go back to respecting our mothers, to respecting our grandmothers, to respecting everybody that there was that hierarchy where before even a man, before he gets married, before he go out there, the aunties were always there. The grandmothers played their role. But now we're having that issue of women not able to lead. There's just this fight against us. And there is nothing that we can do about it. It seems like it. The village have created headman, which is your boy child, your man. And we are all lost. So that was Dr. Linda Masarira, and on our next show, we are looking at something that is very, very important, that hates women, that is so painful, that is happening in our societies. I think about a month ago, I shared something on my social media. I was asking, I asked a question like, what makes a man rape his own child, his own daughter? And the responses from people were like Mishonga, using muti and so forth. And we have seen the issue that happened in Zim recently, where a 7-year-old boy was killed, and we have also seen a lot of these muti killings happening in Africa, in South Africa, in Zim, in Kenya, almost in all African countries where people kill for body parts, especially young boys, they young children, they kill them for business or for whatever. So when these people are caught, they will tell you that I'm doing this for muti, I'm doing this because the sangoma told me to bring a child's body parts so that a child's body parts so that my business can go on, my business can work, and so forth. So this has been a burning question to say, why would a traditional healers, or the sangomas as we call them, are they to blame when it comes to this? Do we blame them? Because obviously when somebody comes in when they come in and they say bring a body part, there is something wrong there. So in studio we are joined in by sangomas, two of them. We have Dr. Nguka. Yes, I'm not good with names. Isasane, that's Dr. Oscar Nguka from Sanak. And we also have Dr. Nomsa Sveko from Vukangoma. Both of them are sangomas, so we have questions for them to say. With all these things happening, are they to blame? Dr. Nomsa, how are you? I see you have just logged in. How are you?
Jogozani, I'm fine, thank you. And how are you? Thank
Um,
you for inviting me
um,
to.
I'm great. I'm great. Where is Dr. Oscar? I see that he is not yet in.
He's trying to log on as well from his side, but we can
Okay,
continue.
that's perfect. All right, that's perfect. Thank you for joining in, and I apologize if this is gonna sound like some sort of an insult. I know that the the theme and the question is multi killings in Africa. Are the Sangomas to blame? There've been a lot of hype going out to say they are killing for business. They were told to bring in body parts and so forth. So may you kindly just introduce yourself and tell us what is this Vukangoma and what do you do? Yeah.
Connection is
Hello, can
very
you
bad.
hear me, Doc?
Can you just repeat quickly?
Yeah, I hear you now.
I can barely hear you. I think it's because of the weather, but I'm here. I can hear you a little bit.
Okay, can you hear me
What was the
now?
question?
Okay, I was asking, like, may you briefly
Yes, I
introduce
can.
yourself? Yes, can you briefly introduce yourself? Who is Gogo Nomsa and who is Vukangoma? What is it all about?
Okay. My name is Nomsa Svego. My ancestral name is Kokota Manzi. I've been a traditional for more than a decade. Our
Hello, can you hear
called
me?
#Vugamngoma. And
Yes.
Vugamgoma is an organization that is saying to traditional healers out there, wake up. Things are being done in your name without your presence, without you being knowing what's happening around in your name. So we are
Mm-hmm. I think we have the issue with network here. We have the issue with network, and we have just lost her. I believe that she's gonna be joining us in a few minutes. Trying to get a hold of the other guest. I'm not sure what's happening with the network today where she is because of the rain. We are not even able to hear her properly. Um, she'll be joining us in a few minutes. We are looking at Muti killings. Yes, you can go on. I see you are back in. Yes, you can go on.
okay. I was briefly trying to explain to you what Vugamgoma is all about. It's an organization that seeks to demystify Ubunyanga and to say to traditional healers out there that things are being done in your name or about you or around you without you guys knowing, and that also impacts on the negativity that comes with the profession. Unfortunately, there's charlatans, and then there's evil in every profession, and one of those things are the reasons why we've got sangomas that are being spoken negatively about, and
I think the network today is just kind of crazy because of the rains in Johannesburg. So she is in and out. And I hope that we're going to be catching up with her very, very soon again. She was just briefly explaining to us what is Vukangoma. And the issue is around Muti killings. The issue is around Muti killings. Yes, we are back. Can we carry on?
the connection seems very, very bad. I don't know. I think it's basically the
Yeah, I
weather.
think it's the rains.
It's raining on my side.
Yeah.
I think that's where the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what Vugamgoma is all about. We're trying to say to people that things that said about us and around us in our we are going to against all the negativity that we face. Basically that's what Vugamgoma is.
Oh, I think the network is really, really bad. Just waiting for Dr. Oscar to also tune in, join us in so that we can take it from there. The network is really bad. It's been raining cats and dogs since morning. So I think that is also part of the problem. That's part of the issue. But anyway, if you are just tuned in, this is Mata Matarenda Shumba in Creating the Africa We Want, talking about Muti killings, Sangomas to blame regarding this. When we look at South Africa, I got an article here that says Muti killings is a way of life in rural areas. 1 in 5 people in South Africa's rural areas have had first-hand experience of a human body part being trafficked after a Muti killing. Yeah, we're gonna be trying again, Gogo Nomsa. We're gonna be trying again. I think we are back.
Yes. I don't know if you heard the little explanation that I made.
Yeah, it's been bumpy.
As
It's been on and
let me just
off.
continue as the negativity and things like that. Also, the negativity they
Yeah.
want to work against. We're trying to yes.
Hello, can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Things that they happen in every profession. The evil and there's the that tend to use evil in order to achieve what they want to achieve. And we would like to say, as we denounce any of that, and if anybody's involved in any of that.
I think network is quite hectic from her side. She was actually saying they denounce all of that is only an act that is done by people who wants to get rich or be successful through evil ways, and they as Vukamngoma they try and denounce that, and we've been. Okay, welcome, Dr. Oscar. You just joined us in as Gogo Nomsa was explaining something we couldn't hear because of network. Good afternoon. Sawubona, can you hear me? Oh, I think network is a bit terrible today on their side. It's raining in Johannesburg, and
Hello, can
it's
somebody
really,
hear
really.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. Dr. Oscar is now here. I think network is not as good as it should be. We were still listening to
Perfect.
what Gogo Nomsa was saying. Yes. Can you hear me? Hello. Oh, I think it's just gonna be tough. Can you hear me, Dr. Oscar? I think network is very bad. And if you just tuned in, this is Martha Matarenda Shumban creating the Africa we want. And today's topic is multi
Yes, I
killings are
can.
samples. Yes, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, may you kindly introduce yourself? Who is Dr. Oscar and Sasani? I think that's how to pronounce it. What do you guys do? Okay,
All right.
I was
My
asking.
name is
Yes.
Oscar Nguka, and well, I'm a THP, a traditional health practitioner. I've been very much involved in various organizations pertaining our practice. Of course, trying to liberate our sector. Well, I can tell you, we haven't been that successful. Um, yeah, basically that's that.
Okay. All right. So we have a question here. Multi killings, are Sangomas to blame for this? Because most people are killing for business and taking children's body parts, and they say the Sangoma said, I must bring this, I must bring that. Where is your stand regarding that?
It's very clear, and I think it's very simple. Firstly, I think we need to, start from a point that says, I don't think there is one person that can differentiate between a genuine Sangoma. I don't want to call them Sangomas. I want to call them healers, right? Because there are a lot of categories within this healing sector of ours. So that being
Yeah.
said, it's quite difficult to then say who is a healer and who is not, because we don't have clear parameters that can distinguish between an accredited healer and a charlatan. We don't. So for now,
Okay.
unfortunately, we're going to have to bear the brunt, of being blamed and obviously, being scathed and all of these nasty things being said about us. We will have people most certainly who will manipulate the situation, and unfortunately, as I'm saying, there's nothing we can do. But if I were to respond directly to your question, I would say there is no healer that uses human body parts. I think that one has to be
That's right.
very clear as a matter of fact. In this calling, in this practice, what we do use is animal fat, animal skin, bone, yes. And as far as a human is concerned, now you're talking something completely different.
Okay. Because
I'm not
I
sure if you
believe
can,
that,
yes.
yes, I
I'm
can
not
hear
sure if you
you.
can.
Yes, I heard what you said.
Sure.
Now, there is always this blame, especially is looking at different religions that we have. You would find out that those in or Christianity, they will then believe that everybody is the same. I know that there are different groups of traditional healers, um, but from an outsider, we're standing out there. They don't know who is who. So do you have any platforms where you have to go and differentiate, because this is something that is ongoing? When we say 1 in every 5 people in rural South Africa, they are really aware of all of these things. What is your stance? What are you doing from your side to make sure that you let society and communities know who is who? Yeah, can you hear me? Your mic is mute. I'm not sure what's happening here.
All right.
We're having this. Yes. Yes, I hear you now.
Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
All right. As I was saying, un unfortunately, yes, people are going to keep on blaming us. I also need to stress as well that we, as leaders, are equally responsible in a sense that we have not worked hard enough, sufficient enough to ensure that we have drafted ourselves a sector charter that will be a governing document, something that will say this is a guiding document for whoever has been a practitioner and whoever is coming into the space. So in that regard, I do point a finger to ourselves, right? And trust
Okay.
me, like any other sector, we've got our own internal politics. But addressing your question, I am therefore saying that at the end of it all, people need to be educated. You
That's
go
right.
on the internet, there is an enormous amount of literature pertaining traditional healing and the practice, you know. But I equally want to add that we also then further, as practitioners, do have a responsibility of continuously educating the public so that we don't have people continuously blaming and pointing fingers. You will find that even amongst ourselves, our behavioral pattern is not the same. There isn't much that we can do about it. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how hard and how loud we scream and shout. Technically speaking, even from a legal point of view, there isn't much we can do. I also do want to add this bit. People keep on saying that we must stop looking to the government. And I'm saying I entirely disagree with that. We need to constantly
Okay.
remember that the government is the enabler. We have a litany of laws, legislature, right? And
Yeah.
they are impeding towards our practice. And yet there is such a huge expectation for us to be able to overcome all of these challenges. And I'm saying it is impractical. I'll make you a simple example of what I'm talking about. A typical example is that policy that was drafted, I think, somewhere in 2012. This policy was pertaining entire practice, the practitioner, and everything else. This very same policy I think it's two, not 2012. Let me correct myself. It's two drafted. In 2008, 8 years down the line, for no apparent reason, there was no consultation, right, with us as the entire sector. The policy was stopped. We are now in 2020. Government had called us to a conference to say we are resuming, the furtherance of. In all of these years, we're talking 20 years down the line. In all of these years, if you as the enabler, the growth, the success, the prosperity of the sector, we have a law, we have a piece of legislature, Act number 22, right? And I'm saying 2007. It is 2020 today. We've had a council. This act makes provision for the established Traditional Health Practitioners Council of South Africa, right? The is there in name, right? The council was appointed, I think, 10 years ago, which is 2010, right? Which was their second term by the then Minister Motsoaledi. Up until today, there is no practitioner in South Africa number. So people are accountable. How do you develop them? How do you advance education towards the public in terms of making sure that you identify charlatans? You can't. Not in this kind of environment.
Yeah, which means it always goes back to government to say if there is any memorandums that are drafted and constitution, we need to adhere to it, and also work with if there are any associations of traditional healers. I think they should also be pushing for that. If maybe 20 years down the line we see that there is nothing happening, they should be the ones that push for it, because your name is being tainted. Of which I also believe that, of which I also believe that maybe if some of these offenders are caught and they say the Sangoma said I should bring this, other traditional healers associations should be the ones that take that person and say, go and show us this person who told you to bring a body part. Then as the association, take them to the police station or push for government to do something about that. Is there any kind of scenarios that you can say we have done that and it didn't work?
I can make you a practical example. I think about 4 months ago, there was a lady who went for initiation in Soweto. This lady went for initiation to a practitioner. I don't want to say it's a so-called practitioner. Let's give the respect and say she is a practitioner. This lady went for initiation, and I think the second month down her initiation, she just woke up and she passed away. But the funny part is you could see that there were pieces of her body that were cut out, and their excuse, and this was published by the Daily Sun, so by the way. We then followed up. Back then, I was still the chairperson of the Gauteng Traditional Healers, sitting on the civil society. We followed up. It was me and 2 other colleagues. We followed the case up. We spoke to the investigators, involved. And you are not going to believe me. This lady is scot-free. The investigating officers never got back to us to tell us what the reasons were. This case never went to court. So when I say that government also proves not to have the political will, that is one typical example which I'm talking about. And there are many other examples that I can tell you about. It doesn't matter how committed these associations can be. So by the way, when we talk of traditional healing associations, in the whole of this province, Gauteng, we only have 3 compliant, registered organizations. Only 3.
Wow.
So it's not as if we're talking about 10 or 15 associations for traditional healers.
So meaning that there should be at least more. Wow, it's so sad, because with all these situations happening, Yeah, only these three associations. It's quite a small number given the number of issues that we face every day. Gogo Nomsa, do you want to add something to that? Just before
Um,
maybe we lose.
yes, unfortunately, because like I'm saying, it's raining on my side, so it's very difficult for me to actually pull through. But in general, what Umkulu Oscar has said actually makes a lot of sense, and it's the truth. It's what's happening within our sector. Unfortunately, there's very few of us that are participating within the sector and meaningful participation in that matter. And I think that's why organizations like Vugam at the moment are trying to make sure that we bring healers together so that we can fight whatever issues or negativity that comes through in our name, and then we don't just let things slide or hear about it in the media, for instance, without us knowing what's going on around our sector. But in trying to put everything together, unfortunately, we have the naysayers, we've got the negativity that comes through from our very own sector, of people not wanting to be part of it because so and so is involved, etc., etc. So we still have a lot of repair work to do as healers amongst ourselves to make sure that we start speaking in one voice instead of pulling each other apart. Instead, we find it very difficult to listen to one another, especially
That's
when we
right.
talk on anything sector related. So we are trying at the moment as Vugamgoma to make sure that we bring them together and we disseminate information to the people so that people know what's happening within the sector, so that they have a voice within the sector, so that we can liaise better with government in order to better the lives of all healers out there, as well as the patients that we're actually taking care of, so that there is some sort of accountability on our part as far as whatever
Yeah.
we do. And that's what Ivugam is all about, trying to push that and to make sure that it actually happens, because things like multi murders are things that are very, they're negative. They've got a negative connotations. And unfortunately, we have been painted with a very negative brush as far as that is concerned. But I can safely tell you that if a person is a sangoma and they've gone through the proper initiation, there is no point where body parts are called for or are used in any of our mutis. Now there is something called umtagati,
Yeah.
which is the negative part of traditional of the sector, basically, where the people use negative things. They use things like body parts, they kill people, and they do a whole lot of things. But then you must also remember that when once you start crossing that line and you become called umtagati, you have no right to call yourself a sangoma anymore. You've fallen over the fence. You are not this side of the fence anymore. So unfortunately, because people do not know the difference between the two, they tend to then paint us all with the same brush and say that sangomas are involved, or they are to blame for muti killings. Muti killings are normally commissioned by the people that are walking on the streets, the people with businesses and stuff like that. They commission them from these people. And because
Yeah.
they pay a top dollar for it, a lot of people would then do it. But once, as a traditional healer, or as a healer, as a nyanga, you then cross over to using body parts. You are no longer in the light. You are now moving on the dark side of things. And moving on the dark side of things, unfortunately, has repercussions as well. That you must, there's consequences for what you are doing in moving on to the
Okay.
dark side. So at the end of the day, I don't think personally that they still deserve to be called Izangoma, or they deserve to be called Izinyanga, because they're no longer practicing what they were taught during initiation. Now what they're doing is killing. And at no point are we taught to use body parts at any point in any of our healing practices.
Wow. Okay. At least you have said it very well that they are abatakati, they end up doing this, and also business people who don't want to work hard and they think body parts can assist to boost their businesses. And as Obaba Oscar just said, Uti, there are only three associations, which is a very small number. I remember sometime in 2017, we had a march to the union buildings. This was regarding the killing of people with albinism for
Yeah,
Muti as well.
yeah,
So it was an issue, and we gave the memorandum to the government so that something can at least be done. And a lot of awarenesses have been raised in our communities to say, you know what, There is no such thing as their body part being, able to boost your business or make you younger or whatever the case might be. But now we have a lot of traditional healers, bahamba bayotwasa here in South Africa. There are so much. What efforts are you putting in trying to recruit them to associations? I know there's always politics, but I think it is great to say when you have recruited them to associations, you can lobby when it comes to these issues. If there is, we are looking at the number, like there were recently about 72 accounts relating to trafficking of body parts, and 27 of those body parts were coming from South Africa. So when we have this kind of issues with the large numbers of traditional healers in South Africa, if they can go out there and lobby regarding this issue, I think our voices can be heard. I don't know what you think regarding this, if there are any efforts.
I fully agree with you. In that if we were to band together and do something about it, and that's why, like I said, organizations like hashtag Vugamgoma, that's what our primary goal is, to make sure that we remove the stigma that's attached to the negative things that are happening within the sector. It would be a great effort if all of us would come together and speak out against it. But in speaking out against it, you must remember, it's a lot of things are commercialized these days, and because of the commercialization, people tend to want to get rich quickly, as you say. There are business people out there who would still want to use those body parts and who still want to do whatever that they do. Those are the things that we can only speak out against, we can only fight against, and maybe push for stricter laws against such things happening. Because at the end of the day, once you start using any body part, you are no longer a sangoma, you are no longer a healer, you are a destroyer. I mean, it's a person's
That's
life
right.
that you've
That's
taken
right.
away. And once you start being called a destroyer, there's not much that we can do on our side to basically bring you back to the light, because you've taken a life. But having said that, if we do come together and we lobby as healers in order to have this thing stopped, I'm sure we can go a long way in having it done, but we need a strong voice, which basically means that we need to band together as healers, even from the various associations that are there, even the new ones and the old ones, come together and go under one banner and say to government, this is what we basically want to happen, and can it happen in such and such a way? This is not to say that once that is done, all of this is going to stop, but at least it will go a long way in deterring those that are even thinking about it, in wanting
Yeah.
to enter into things like that. So I do agree with you that should we band together, we actually should band together and actually tackle things like these so that they do not happen within our communities. I would like to briefly speak about the killing of albinos.
Yeah.
This has
Yeah.
been a
Let's
stigma.
go.
This is a stigma that's attached to traditional healers since time immemorial. There are so many myths and fallacies around that as far as multi killings are concerned. People tend to believe, especially those that have been trained in the negative, to believe that albinos have special powers, their blood has special powers, their body parts have special powers, but the truth of the matter is it is not. And together as Vugamgoma with an association called Sesia Kulanjalo, have Sesia Kulanjalo has made strides in wanting to bridge the gap between people living with albinism as well as traditional healers, where they are saying that they need to start accepting us. And it's a very sad situation, because when we go to those workshops and meetings, unfortunately, we find that they're afraid of us. People living with albinism are afraid of us because of the stigma attached to our profession. Where if you see a sangoma and they see a person living with albinism, they will immediately want to destroy them, hurt them, take a piece of their body or whatever. So we are trying to say that is not that is not the truth. We are actually making strides and interacting with them and inviting them to some of our things so that they can see that it's not, this is not who we are. It's not who we're trying to portray. It's not who we want to be seen as. And I have to commend Isesia Kulanjalo for that, because they've done a great job in bridging that gap between people living with albinism and traditional healers.
Okay. Wow, that's great stuff. At least there is a lot of things that it's been done and a lot of clarity. And I've seen that mostly the traditional healers or associations are not invited to media or in decision making. So things just happen. They are not invited to comment when these things are happening as well. So I appreciate you guys for taking your time to be part of this. I know it was a short notice, and at some point I felt like, wow, are they going to come? It's really a sensitive issue. Baba Oscar, is there anything that you want to add to what Gogo Nomsa said?
Yes, perhaps just one. In as far
Okay.
as ensuring that these people who call themselves practitioners or healers are nipped in the bud, there is there's a very powerful and effective solution to that, which is government must ensure the rapid and speedily establishment or revival of the council. Remember, when the council is up and running, each and every practitioner will then have a practice number, correct? With this
Yeah.
practice number, we can then have some sort of mechanism of holding each and everyone accountable. Now, let's
Yeah.
assume healer X has got his practice number, right?
Yeah.
And this person is then found with human body parts. One, it becomes very easy to sentence the person. Two, the person becomes blackmailed or blacklisted in actual fact, right?
Yeah.
Three, he gets struck off the roll of practitioners. For me, that's
Wow.
the most pertinent, powerful mechanism that we currently have at our disposal. But it can only suffice if government also comes to the table. Yes, of course, we need to make mention. There's a reason why this council is actually hanging and pending. Simply because the very act that makes, for the establishment of this act is not entirely addressing the needs of us as traditional healers. Therefore, we have then requested for this act to be reviewed. Number two, we have requested for the minister to come to the table, speak to us, hear what it is that we actually want in this very same act, so that issues like these can be addressed. It must be put inside the act. The regulations within that act must also be reviewed so that everything and everybody must be clear in terms of what they do, what their responsibilities are, their accountability, and also to secure and ensure the well-being of the patient. In other words, we are saying if that can be done, we
Yeah.
can then ensure that the public automatically gets hold of this information, becomes informed, becomes educated, and the public can be participating as well. Because by then, if you know that I am doing 1, 2, 3, I have my practice number, you can just take my practice number and report me to the council. But currently,
Yeah.
there's nothing nobody can do.
Ish, which is very very bad because it's going on and more children are going missing and their body parts are found somewhere and so forth. So we need
Mhm.
to really find the solution or implement what you just suggested as soon as possible. I don't know how you guys might feel to say you need to contact the other associations maybe as soon as possible. Speak to media as much as you can, have articles going out there raising awareness in our communities. When we look at like the child who was murdered and mutilated in Soshanguve, these are the situations where I believe as associations, when these things are happening or when these people are sentenced, you guys can just go there and say, you know what, we are demanding a tougher when coming up with a sentence for these people, we want them, to go for as many years as possible. I mean, the person who who say bring the body parts, as well as that business person or the hitman or whoever might be involved. I think it is also your duty, because if you stand, and just say,
Correct.
it is what it is. There's nothing that we can do about it. It will go on and on and on. When we look at African societies or communities or families back in the day before all this, traditional healers were consulted in almost everything. What they said was there was a lot of respect.
Correct.
There were spirit mediums that we used to consult. So I think we should go back to that. But it can only happen
Correct.
not when an individual like me go out there and lobby for it, but when you guys demand to be part of decision making, demand to be recognized. You can't force community, yes, because of some are going to church, some believe this, but your involvement, your voice, when you are involved in these kind of situations, I believe that people will start to go back to those, our way of living. That's what I think.
I fully agree with you in that we need to start demanding our place in the sun. But I'd also like to highlight something. I worked with a forensic project at some point where they were talking about multi-murders. And the astonishing thing is a lot of some of these deaths are actually not even multi-related. It's people that are blaming Sangomas for criminal activities that they do on the side. So on
That's
the
right.
same breath, that's why I'm saying we need to be very careful how we are going to approach this, because you must remember we cannot take the law into our own hands, number one.
That's right.
And secondly, as far as the law, they know exactly what to do. The police knows exactly what to do when they find things like that and what the investigations go through. But in most cases, you would find that a person would take somebody else's life and then cut off possibly a breast or a foot and then try and blame multi-murders when it actually has nothing to do with that. So we cannot take that away
Makes a lot of
from
sense.
the greater picture. We need to remember that. There was a case a few years back, about 10 years back, that I was consulted on, which had something to do with a husband murdering a wife. And in order to hide the murder, they cut the body up and they threw away some pieces. And obviously, when the wife was found, the first thought was it was a multi-murder because of the parts that were taken, etc., only to discover upon investigation that it is not related to that at all. This was a person
Wow.
trying to hide where they were going. So I'm saying at the end of the day, we need to be very careful in blaming sangomas sometimes for things that they've got nothing to do with. Let us not run away, or let us not move away from letting the law take its course. Let's allow the investigations and police to go forward before we start placing blame on some of these bodies that are found out there, because it is quite common that people would try and hide their nefarious deeds by blaming sangomas. It's easy to blame them. I mean, if you cut a foot here, you cut a breast there, a person automatically assumes it was a multi-murder. But the truth of the matter is, I think about 9 times out of 10, it's actually got nothing to do with
To do with
multi. It is more of a criminal element. So having said that, I'm saying that in our sector, it is very rare that you would find us using it never happens that we use body parts, and it's very rare that you would find that mtagati using those body parts, because I mean a human life we value above everything else. We put it forward. It's what makes us who we are. The
That's
fact
right.
that we are called to heal basically means that you put a person's life forward before anything else, before even your own. So us murdering and touching anything that has to remove a soul goes against all the laws of traditional healing. They go all the laws of ancestry, that you don't do that. I mean, as far as ancestors are concerned, should you take a life, you are opening yourself up to so much evil that it's not even worth it at the end of the day. So I'm saying ultimately we need to be very careful when we start blaming multi-murders on traditional leaders without evidence, without proper investigation, and assuming that is what it's all about, because it has been proven in the past that it's not always the case.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for saying this. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for highlighting who is who, because sometimes it's just it's just difficult, to understand, especially if you don't understand who is a traditional healer, who is umtakati, and who is doing what. Um, Anything like from where you are operating from, that is like from the associations that you are working with, have you ever tried to confront these kind of issues? Any other sangoma? I'm trying to find the best word. What umtakati? Any other umtakati you have ever mutilated body parts? Have you ever been in a position to confront or to take them to a police station or something?
I personally have never been in a position where I've met them. Like I'm telling you, this is a super rare thing within our sector.
Okay.
It's very, very rare that you would find something like this, right? We are not saying it does not happen, but it's very, very rare. And in it being very rare, I'm saying I've got about 15 years or so of years of being in the traditional healing sector, and I have never encountered, and within a leadership position for that matter, I've never encountered a situation where I'd have to remove body parts from a person here and there. I actually hear
Wow.
about it more often than not in the media, or from newspapers and such, saying that this is what has happened. But around me and people that I work with and that we have worked with, it's a very rare occurrence. But once it happens, it gets addressed by law enforcement. It will not get
Okay.
addressed by us. And the
By
reason for that is it is murder. Murder is a criminal offense, and according to the laws of this country, we cannot um, be putting ourselves in situations where we might even mess up the case because of
That's
our
right.
involvement. What we can do is on the side, without actually having anything that's risen, we can stand up and band together, like basically and say we are going to fight this. We are going to make sure that we are going to condemn this in the strictest of forms, or maybe even ask for stricter laws to be put in place in order to make sure that this does not happen. But it's a very rare occurrence. And in it being a very rare occurrence, we need to let the law take its course when it comes to multimurders. And this I plead with everybody, because in most cases people retaliate, and you would then commit a crime yourself because you're retaliating over something that has not been investigated, and you may be
Yeah, that's
perpetuating
right.
something that you should not be perpetuating. So we need to be very, very careful as citizens, that we don't just automatically assume when we find a dead body with things on it that is exactly what has happened, unless that sangoma is found with the possession in their own hands that you have a human body part, which I have never encountered personally, but I have heard of such happening. And in hearing of it, like we say, we let the law take its course. We do not take the law into our own hands under any circumstance.
That's right. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here, and we appreciate you for everything that you are saying. We appreciate you for everything, in our communities. I know that this issue had to be addressed. This issue had to be done, because it's not an easy a task in being a traditional healer in a society where people are painting you to be the perpetrator, or some who say no, they get this motive from they got this motive from the sangoma, so they are to blame. So I wanted to bring you here so as to clarify, and your explanation at least have answered all the questions. So as Gogo Nomsa, where are you operating from? Somebody's asking me a question like, where is she? I need something. Where are you
I'm
operating
operating
from,
from
and
Pretoria.
where do we find you?
I'm operating from Pretoria, in Eastland.
Mm-hmm.
On Facebook, I'm known as Nomsa Sibego.
Okay.
And if they need to get a hold of me, they can actually call you. I will leave my number with you. I do not want to broadcast my number, but
Yeah,
they
I
will
do
leave
have
it.
your numbers.
Yes, and then you can give it to whoever inquires, and I'll take it from there.
All right, no, not a problem. And Yo, mina angakashadi ngifuna ukubuza ukuthi bazongishada.
If ufuna ukushadwa, we need to sit down and find out how your spirit is aligned, where everything is, and make sure that everything is in place so that we can get you the
Okay.
wedding that you require. Because we can do that. It's about alignment in most cases. And people tend to think that you're not married because there's something wrong with you. No. The truth is, at the end
Okay.
of the day, the spirits need to be aligned for things to go your way.
Oh, okay. So it's not like I will be getting some korobela for my guy to make things,
We do not
faster.
advocate that. We do not advocate using anything on another human being under any circumstances, because once you
Wow.
start using things like that, you must remember the person has the right to retaliate should you start something. They have
Yeah,
not done
exactly.
anything to you. So if you start using things like Borobela, that person has got the right to retaliate in whatever way that they can. You cannot then come back and cry foul when you are being messed up by however that they've retaliated. I do not advocate, and we're saying to people, they're not worth it. It's not worth it. You do not want to be in love with Muti. You want to be in love with the person.
With the person. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is me just trying
Thank
to
you.
see if there is anything that I can do. But anyway, I'll be sharing your details with the person who just asked the question. But thank you so
Yes.
much for joining us in. I'll keep in touch with you. And if there is anything that we need to maybe do a follow up of this conversation in future,
Sure.
let us know. And also, if there are anything that you are doing as an association, let us know so that we can be able to broadcast and let people know that there is something like this happening. Most people don't know, and unfortunately the media don't always give traditional healers a platform to
That's why
share.
we thank you very
Yes.
much for giving us the time and space to speak out on things. And we do agree that we will be available should be anything else that you'd like to talk to us about as far as traditional healing is concerned. And we appreciate the people listening. And I would like to conclude on behalf of Umkulu Ncuka as well, because he has been cut off because of weather conditions. But thank you
Okay.
very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much for hosting us.
All right. Thank you. Have a lovely day. Have a lovely day, Gogo
Very
Nomsa,
much.
and I will keep in touch. Thank you. If you
Thanks.
All right. Okay. If you just tuned in, this is Mata Matarenda Shumba on Radio 54 African Panorama. I was joined in studio by Gogo Nomsa and Umkulu Oscar Nka. Yes, I managed to pick that up. So we've been talking about a whole lot of stuff that are happening in our societies, and yes, things are happening, and at least they've managed to clarify that most of the time it's not them, it is actually people who are just doing stuff, and they are blamed for it. They don't advocate for killing other human beings, because human beings is what they are all about. So if you just tuned in, this is Mata Matarenda Shumba in creating the Africa we want, and we are here to say Muti killings, the Sangomas are not the ones to blame. It is just people who just go on and do things their own way, things the way they want, and they come back and say Sangomas are doing 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, it still goes back to the government, the policies, and making sure that the sentence is as hard and as tough as possible. Maybe if somebody is found with mutilated bodies, they should also face the music and say, you know what, you mutilated a body, so you need to go the same route. So if you just tuned in, this is Mata Matarenda Shumba on creating the Africa we want.